A beautiful afternoon to you and welcome to Rubbin Minds. My name is Isabella Adediji. Thank you for tuning in. Before we go any further on the show, we would like to wish Dr. Obi Ezekwesili a super happy birthday. She turned 60 during the week. Happy birthday, Madam Due Process. Now we move to our conversation today. For many of us on social media, tomorrow will be getting a lot of messages, the Happy New Month, but we'll also get Happy Workers' Day. Now, what is there to be happy about Workers' Day? Some of you may ask. We do have rising unemployment in Nigeria. For those fortunate of us to be in employment, there are lots of questions on remuneration. For example, will our wages rise the way the price of basic food items like bread and eggs are rising due to food inflation? What about our working conditions, as a lot of us have returned to the office after the lockdown? What are employers doing to make sure that our mental health is taken care of? Now we move to another set of people, the underemployed. Some years ago, social media was outraged when we saw PhD holders applying for jobs of truck drivers. And this underemployment continues to show its face in so many places. We have people who go through years of the university contending with strike after strike, only to end up in jobs because, like they say, it's condition that made the proverbial crayfish's back to bend. A lot of people have found themselves in jobs that have nothing to do with what they studied, but hey, man must chop. Now, we also have the unemployed, and that sadly continues to grow. A lot of people are looking for jobs. On the one hand, the HR recruiters say that there are jobs, but these people say, how do I get a job when I need to be a certain age and still have a minimum number of years of experience? For others, they're saying, why am I discriminated against just because I went to the Polytechnic? And for those who did go to the university, I have less than a 2-1, I have a 2-2, a third, a pass. What jobs are out there for me? There are so many issues when it comes to the issue of unemployment in Nigeria. We're looking at unemployment from the people who are looking for jobs or who are looking to create jobs and become self-employed. But yet the fear of taxes, of government vacillating with policies, and they ask themselves, how easy is it really to do business? And that's the question that a lot of companies have before coming to Nigeria to set up shop. They are afraid that one minute they're in business, the next minute they're out. Now we have a lot to discuss on the program, and I'm happy to welcome our guest, who is a recruiter, Ifeoma Martins. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Well, I'd like to say Happy Workers' Day in AreThe or in advance. But my first question is there anything to be happy about this upcoming Happy Workers' Day?
I think I would say yes and no. Yes, on the perspective that you could identify as a worker, you have a 9-to-5, you have something that keeps you going. And no, because the increasing rate of unemployment in Nigeria, we currently officially have a 33.3% unemployment rate. But sincerely, I think it's over that, and that's not properly been reported, or if a proper analysis is being done, that's way over it at the moment. So I'll say yes and no, because, okay, we're thankful that we have something to do, and we're not thankful because we know people who have skills and are not, don't have anything to do.
I think my question really is, and I know that this is the question of a lot of people, and you're a recruiter, and yes, I'm sure you've heard this question before, is that, are there jobs? We know there's unemployment, but are the jobs there?
Yes, sincerely there are. I think because we're currently in a system of higher supply than demand, so it seemingly feels like there aren't enough, but yes, there aren't enough jobs, but there are jobs there. And the integral thing about not just having those jobs are the sort of people needed to fill those jobs. Right now, I would say that the competition is really high. And for you to get those jobs that are out there, you have to distinguish yourself. You can't just be, those jobs are not there for just anybody. So we have a lot of people looking for these jobs. So you have to be better than the next best person.
So does that immediately translate into you have to have a first class, you have to have a 2-1, you have to have loads of experience, even though you have to be under a certain age?
No, that's actually very unrealistic, because I think over time and with the emergence of the startup world and the tech businesses and the tech-enabled businesses, we have gone over that, having a particular degree or having a particular class of degree and being a particular age. At this point, a lot of businesses that are within the startup and tech space do not care about what age you are.
But the traditional businesses
still do that. But then again, I think that's where a lot of information in how the hiring is done is now sort of changing with the pattern, the realization that age cannot be a factor anymore, because people tend to go into universities on time but don't get to leave on time. So we have modern HR advances that are being put in place to make sure that those archaic, processes are already being broken down, and it's not a thing of now.
I think this reminds me of something I saw recently in the news, which is trying to really sort out that dichotomy when it comes to university versus Polytechnic. What is government doing? And is this whole recruitment industry, is it regulated? Are there penalties for employers who say, I am not going to employ somebody who went to a Polytechnic or somebody who has a pass or a third class?
Yes, there are penalties. The recruitment body still falls under the Nigeria Trade Union, Nigerian Labor Act. So you can't discriminate, or you shouldn't discriminate against someone who has a university degree and a Polytechnic degree. However, employers did that, and there was a mindset to having a preference to the university graduate over the Polytechnic graduate. But over time right now, we can see that there shouldn't be a dichotomy in any way, because the produce is the same.
Interesting you should say that. And it also takes me to another group of people, and those are people living with disabilities.
Yeah.
How prepared is the Nigerian workplace in terms of their infrastructure, their policies, their remuneration, the support that they give for these peoples living with disabilities?
Sincerely, I do not think the Nigerian labor force is ready for employees with disabilities. I don't see a lot of them hiring people with disabilities at the moment. So I think a lot has to still be done where that is concerned, because it feels like they're still at a disadvantage, and there's not a lot of support or garnering.
Do you feel this is a place that government needs to come in terms of ensuring that the policies are actually being adhered to, and ensuring that the employers that do not make provision for these people are actually penalized?
I think it has a lot to do with the employer's mindset. I think that is the major thing there should be a switch there. And if you easily understand that, this person has this and is able to still bring their A game to what they have to deliver, then that should not be a reason to not hire. But it's just a mental block or a mental shift that has to happen on the employer's part of things. Legally, the law has a backing for that. But if it's like a situation where if you are not seen doing it, there is no problem. Like, no one is coming after you. So there should be someone or a body trying to enforce that or push that into a lot of more existence.
Okay. I'd like to take you back to what you said about there being jobs.
Yeah.
Now, there are some jobs, but a lot will argue that these jobs are not filled by Nigerians. So some of the top jobs across the country are being filled by skilled labor from other countries.
Yes.
What can be done to address this issue?
I think it's because of a lack of belief in the sort of talent that we have in this country. Yes, it's true. There are a lot of jobs that are being filled by non-Nigerians. Ideally, according to the labor law, these roles should not be given to a non-Nigerian because there are certain requirements before a non-Nigerian can have a particular role. So you have to have shown that no Nigerian can fill that role. And
that takes me to our educational system. Is it that the educational system is not preparing Nigerians for these roles, or is still a bias of these companies to continue to recruit foreign nationals?
So I have two answers there. First answer is the truth. The Nigerian system of education does not prepare people for the reality of work, right? And the second is there is a natural bias for wanting to hire foreign nationals over Nigerian nationals for certain roles. It's always been a thing. People have been trying to break, that system of work, but it's growing. But we're still at that point where foreign nationals are still taking certain key roles in Nigeria, and it's not because we don't have top talent here. It's just a natural preference for, I think people who are from this place have a better knowledge of this role and can do better with maybe managing, this function.
And I think that also plays out when we look at locally trained graduates compared to their counterparts who have received education overseas. But I would like to go back to the issue of education and its role in unemployment.
Yes.
Are institutions providing us with unemployable talent? And if yes, what can be done? Like, how can we tackle this problem at the root?
Yes, our institutions do not prepare our graduates for employability. I think majorly what should be done at the moment, looking at it all the way, should be to tear that down and revamp the entire curriculum. Because if you see a Nigerian graduate, there's a difference between a foreign graduate of the same maybe degree, department or course. There's always a disparity because what we tend to, or what we have learned and what we have, been taught seem to be not relevant in our current reality. And Nigerian graduates who tend to do better are people who have invested in themselves, who've taken the time to want to learn, want to do more outside of what they've studied, just so they can be better than, what they came out with.
And while we're waiting for the educational system to catch up with the realities and the demands of the job market, what about skills that are not traditionally taught in schools? So you're not traditionally taught to be an entrepreneur or to be innovative or to have critical thinking skills. What can be done? I mean, I'm sure there are parents wondering, okay, how do I prepare my children? And there are young people that are saying, I want to get this job. What do I need to do?
Most often than not, these are soft skills that you need to cultivate, and there are certain tasks or things you have to engage in to be able to cultivate these skills. It would primarily be for someone to find ways that you can better yourself, find opportunities where you could just learn something, try to improve on what you have, or channel, say, a project. Who says a university graduate or a Polytechnic graduate can't be a part of a project that they've never handled before? It just gives you allowance to think on your own and imagine how things can work out, and also imbibe a natural focus on details.
Okay. Now, let's say I've done everything you've said and I'm ready for the job market. I've invested in myself. I've spent a lot of money. I've done all these things to cultivate my soft skills. And I get the job offer. But with the rise in inflation, I see that I can barely cover my costs. We see people going back to live with their parents. And as a result, people go outside of the country for greener pastures. The whole phenomenon of Japa has touched everyone.
Yes,
so how can employers make the working conditions favorable, but also increase how much they're paying their staff? I mean, I think when they say, the Yorubas will say, "Owo ni koko," the money is what is important at the end of the day.
Yes, it is. Right now, it's a matter of bringing value and then also communicating your value. Unfortunately, if you keep quiet, that opportunity could pass you by. So you have to make sure that, if a figure that's been offered is not comfortable for you, put it out there. Let them know. Let it be a negotiation for, okay, say let's start with this. Then we can increase this after 3 months. We can increase it after 6 months. And you also have to, while you're taking that offer into consideration, have a conversation with whomever is the hiring manager or the HR, the head of people, to understand what is the company's policy on inflation and remuneration. Is there timely increment to also try to save the employees from having to spend so much with the rising cost of everything? Or are they just very strict in their ways, and if you earn this until 2 years after, 3 years after, 5 years after, before you can move up the remuneration or the salary ladder? So those conversations have to be clear. You have to know what you're going into, and remember to always bring value. So with that value, you can always negotiate for something higher.
And I would like to get your perspective on this, because again, this was a very topical issue that was in the news recently, which is, the government saying that they want to compel doctors to stay longer in Nigeria before they can go abroad, considering the cost of the education, say, to attend medical school in Nigeria compared to other countries. Do you think we need more of such policies? Do you think that's a way to stem the departure of skilled talent to other countries?
I do not think that's a good response to that. We have to tackle it head on. What is the reason why? What's the reason behind the massive exodus? Why are the medical students leaving as soon as they're done with their studies here? It's just because of the lack of infrastructure. It's harder to work as a doctor here than it is elsewhere, because you tend to put in a lot of hours, you tend to earn little, you tend to give a lot of yourself and not get anything in return. And then you feel, I'd rather go to where I feel a bit more appreciated and I can earn something out of this. So the problem is not halting them from leaving, it's to find a solution to the problem, which is the root cause. And then if that is done, then the government can come back and say, okay, if this is done and you're still leaving, then you are just leaving because you are taking advantage of our education. But at this point, no, it's not. And that's really unfair.
Thank you very much for all your contributions, Ifeoma Martins.
So